Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today's reading is the qualities and traits about yourself that you underappreciate. So is there something about you that other people see that you are blind to? You have got 3 choices as usual. Your first choice is Venus in Libra, as it's Libra month here. Your second choice is Jupiter in Libra for number 2. And your third choice is Mars in Libra. I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like Austin Butler in a spaceman suit. I don't know if you can see his face, but it does look like him. Okay, so there you go.
La música de Harry Fraud.
Okay, I'm here again. This is my second start. I only got a few seconds in. There's a feeling here that you are kind, reliable, you listen, you're calm. When asked, you're straightforward. There's a feeling here there's something optimistic about the way that you speak, possibly the way that you write here. This being more a feeling of your third house here. You may be one of those people whose writing tends to slant up to the right with this Knight of Wands here. With the Queen of Wands here, it's a feeling, the Queen of Cups here with regards to how the energy that you kick out is warm, kind, receptive, nurturing. You're the type of person that reads when somebody's anxious and would possibly come forward and let's just say somebody came into a party, you would read if they looked as if they were uncomfortable and go and help them, take them into the drinks room. I don't know. It's that type of thing of somebody that can read anxiety in somebody else very easily, and there's a feeling of wanting people to feel okay. There's a feeling of possibly, with these 2 cards together, it has a feeling of somebody who may work with, don't have to work, but who's very good with children. Somebody who communicates in an upbeat way, but is also very caring. There's a feeling here too of somebody who picks the best out of people's words, situations. You know, when somebody gives you a couple of sentences and you know deep down how they're really feeling, but you can choose a few things to pick out of it that can lift them up. There is that feeling of grabbing things and making sure that you put a positive twist on them. There's a feeling here wanting to, I don't know if this is like an English word, but chivvy people up. Make them feel good, and you know what you're doing. So at the moment I'm getting a feeling of somebody who's very kind and looks out for others and knows what they're doing when they want things to be better. They leave a situation. There is also a feeling here that you may put other people before you a little bit too much at times. Because if you're quite sensitive and you are quite optimistic, there may be a feeling here that, I don't know, that you could perhaps possibly want people to feel good. I'm not going to say people pleaser because I don't know the rest of the cards there. But there is that feeling of it makes you feel good when others feel good. But I don't know whether it goes over the line of doing it too much for others, that it you put them too much first. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at this one. Yeah, the 4 of Pentacles is the feeling of that, to be honest. There's a feeling here that you may actually, at the end of your day, when you get home and you've been in a work situation or you've been in a situation with lots of people, if everybody is happy and fine, you may get home and think that everything's okay without asking yourself whether you actually enjoyed the get-together, or the group situation at all. There's a strong feeling that you possibly, and these are the things that you underappreciate about yourself, is a feeling, it's not a feeling, it's you're kind and you're generous and you're optimistic and you see the best in a situation and you try and pick people up. But I think that you do that above yourself. So I think what you underappreciate are those qualities here, but you need to give them a little bit to yourself. There's a... this is getting away from the question, but I have to, because the cards are... these cards are giving out and this card is pulling in, and this is more like your self-worth type of feeling here. So I would have to say, and I don't know if this applies to anybody, it makes common sense to realise that you are as valid member of any group than anybody else. 10 people in a group, 10% of the giving out which should come from you. And you're just as important as everybody else because we're all the same thing. There's a feeling here, I don't know if this feels right, when people put themselves into difficult, because of this feeling here of you trying to make things look good, feel good, which is a beautiful trait and don't try and change it. But there's a feeling here when somebody else has got themselves into a cruddy situation with their thoughts, with their words, with their actions. It's not your job to pull them out. It's your job, sorry, it's their job for them to realise what made them get in the situation in the first place. There is a feeling here of being kind and patient with watching and waiting and not judging, but not your job to pull them out of the mud. That may be something with this card here that applies. I'm not sure there, but I'm just going to say what I can see for the moment. Right. Okay. When you... things that you don't appreciate about yourself when you got the Devil card. There's what you may not appreciate about yourself, but also needs to be kept an eye on, is your ability to commit. Your ability to, in relationships, once you've decided who you want, once you've decided who fits into your life and your circumstance and you're attracted to them, there's a strong feeling that you can get very carried away with that. You may be the type of person who has a certain type, but when you make your mind up, you're very faithful. So there's a feeling here of being faithful, quite set with regards to a long-term commitment, wanting somebody who you think should have some sort of soul link. I'm saying karmic because somebody in the comment section don't like the word karmic. Which is like when you're playing tennis. I don't play tennis. And when somebody compliments you on your playing, you're automatically thinking about it. But so I'm going to say even more now. So whoever said karmic, I don't like the word. I'm really sorry, but by saying that, it makes me think of it even more. So you like a good karmic link. You like somebody to feel like a soulmate, somebody, whatever that is, somebody to feel like there's a little bit of... there's something otherworldly about the connection. And it's strong. It's probably why I'm interpreting that. So what I've got for you so far, qualities and traits about you that you underappreciate. Your ability to care, your ability to listen and to be receptive and to be kind and to know what people want before they even do. Your ability to be optimistic and to pull people out of difficult situations. Your ability to commit. It is actually sprinkled with the bits that I probably have to work through to get to that. Right, what next? Let's go with... oh. Once again, it's a sprinkling of good and bad. Of course, I'll pick out the good bits here. There's a feeling here that this is difficult to put into a positive slant because there's more to it to talk about before I get there. So I'm just going to say it. There's a feeling here that you work really hard. There's a feeling here that you are very committed. There's a feeling here. Do you know what it is? I think it's me being protective of you all here. There's a feeling here that you put a lot of effort into situations. But there's also a feeling here that you block yourself off from the top job or the position. You're putting the effort in, you're putting the time in, And if that does actually make our reality, why would you stop yourself when it's just flourishing? There's a feeling here of that. So I think that you need to be seen for the effort, the time that you put into things, how dedicated you are to things, which I think you're the same with relationships. But don't ever stop with regards to putting you, what I would say, into that Virgo category of must work hard, mustn't have a lot of money. You must also, that, money's nothing, isn't it? It's just something that we use. I mean, years ago, we used to exchange like chickens for a cow, or 10 chickens for a cow, and then we decided to make money. But we put these we allocate negative connotations to money. This is a feeling here. I'm not saying it's particularly money, but you may put yourself into that position where you think the harder you work, the more effort you put in, the more likely you're going to get what you want. That isn't necessarily so. It's something that we've made up to make us feel like it's substantial or it's worthy. You have got the Devil card up here. That's a strange thing to say, because I actually believe the same as you, but I don't really. I actually automatically go into the same as you. But not so much anymore. The older I get, the more I see people who do jack shit and get paid once. I'm thinking, well, no, I can't quite be right. If they're not doing people over, you should be able to choose something that allows us to express ourselves. Because that's, I think, is the right, excuse me, I can't speak, that is the right way to go. Let me just put a couple more cards out here. You're good with working and part of a team. It has got this feeling, and I'm going to say star signs, sun signs, but I'm not saying it's true. It's just a feeling inside myself. It's easier for me to explain the cards. There's a feeling here of Virgo, Sagittarius, that you are optimistic, are good in groups. You work really hard. You work as part of a team. That you show up and you listen. You just get stuck in. You're the type of person who, let's just say you were going on a trip with a group of people, you would be packing the car, you would be buying all the first aid kit, you would be the one that drove, is that the correct word? You drive? Yeah, drove somewhere, and putting the tent up. I'm just putting this into a scenario that I can think of when I was young. And then still going out that night and having fun. And you're the one that was up in the morning. This is like connotations of different holidays here, but you'd be up making the bacon and eggs in the morning. It's that feeling that you are full on invested in life, and you do the high job and the low job. It doesn't really matter the driving, which is normally like a particular person, but also the actual packing bags and putting the tent away. Whatever holiday you're on, you have to shift that one. So you don't mind playing particular parts. There's a feeling here that this is really difficult to say to somebody who has lived lifetimes and lifetimes of putting themselves into a certain position, which lots and lots of people do. And you can tell by the way they speak where they put themselves. I think that you have incredibly underappreciated your value in this pile here. There is such a strong feeling here of the quieter, the kinder, the more you put effort into life, the more worthy you are. And it doesn't necessarily follow those, it may be part of it, but it doesn't necessarily follow those lines. Your qualities are beautiful, and your qualities of working with people, of being what I would say is funny and jovial, optimistic and open and caring, are very, I don't know, very much needed, but you're not there for other people, you're there for yourself, and this card here is worrying me. There's also a feeling here as well with regards to long-term commitments, that maybe the energy that you feel like you stop at yourself, you get to a certain level where you think you're doing well in life, and you probably are doing well in life. You've been lovely to everybody, you're being kind, you're being good, You're working hard, you've got everything moving, it's feeling good. But there's a certain level, I think, that you possibly raise up and think, okay, that's it, that's enough. I don't think that category above that line is for anybody else. That's for the sexy people. I'm only saying that because it's an old Morris Day thing. It's like that's for other people that you don't think you are. And I think with these cards here on the 5th house and the 7th house, which is like relationships, long-term commitment, having fun and playing, the devil for having fun and playing turns straight into boomf. I want, I need. Do you, when it gets to that line that's got the sexy people above it, chuck your sexy people projection onto somebody else? They are the sexy people and put them on a pedestal. Maybe here. This isn't, as I'm saying this, it's not like you've got problems or anything. Everybody is the same. But if you can pick out a couple of things, and it's just a little second when you think, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just about to think that that other person deserves that and I'm just going to sit back. No, have a go. You know, don't think there's any reason that they should have it and you shouldn't have it, or you should have it and they should have it. It's all the same. It's like, just have a go anyway. Play with life a little bit more, because the devil card, that's the play with life pile, and you've got the devil card there, and that's not playing. That is, look at his face. That is not playing. Okay, let's keep going. You are good with your family. You may have grown up in, this is what you are good at. You are good at communicating. You are good at, you may have looked after family members, or you may be the person in the family who made others laugh or feel good, or was very playful. Very much everybody when you were growing up thought that you had an inner contentment, which I think you do have big time. And so people are drawn towards you, and that may be something that you underappreciate. But in doing that, there's also like you keep yourself in a happy arena until it gets to love, and then it's more like you rev up your emotions when it comes to relationships, and you put a lot on relationships where you expect, which I can't say anything about this, because if I had to pick a part of astrology that I love, it would be that sort of evolutionary karmic feel. Ask me to look at moons and where is the moon today? And I'm like, I'm not interested, because it's there and it's gone. And it is important, but to me, it's not what gives me the drive. So you may be very similar, that you are looking for somebody to make this world feel otherworldly. Nothing wrong in that, because it gives you insight. Right. You are that person. You are that person. This to me feels like somebody that spends every day slightly detached. You are open with others. You are very much in with the nitty-gritty of everyday life, but there's something about you that steps back and wants to understand, and you do that a lot through 8th house here with the King of Cups with a little eyeball on his nose. That's where your insight comes from, relationships, and it comes from you're somebody that gets an understanding of life from being slightly stepped back from it. And I wonder with these cards here, maybe that is where you feel that you could separate yourself, to the fact that your self-worth is attached to your separation. You think that maybe, let's just say I'm going to talk about scenarios here that I'm actually in at the moment, not me myself, but let's just say you are 18, 19 and you go to college for the first time. With this card here for self-worth, which is the Four of Pentacles, with a goat on top of the hill, everything's slightly shut off, slightly cool, slightly contracted, and you've got here for your 9th house the Star. So the Star is how broad-minded are you? You know, how much do you accept yourself as part, that Jupiterian card, as part of everybody else? And there's a feeling here that you don't. And there's a feeling here that is the bit that chips away at your self-worth, because you don't see yourself as part of the group, because you're so busy observing it. So just imagine that you go to college and you're in your halls and it's really quiet. Nobody's come to college yet. Do you remember these feelings? Nobody's come in yet, and you can hear people next door, perhaps in the flat next door, laughing. So you want to go and say hello, but because you're so detached, you almost feel as if you're not part of them. And if you just went in, which you're very good at, once you get in, you're fine. It's like everybody loves you. But there's a little sort of pull here between putting yourself into situations and feeling the same part as everybody else. And if everything's going well, absolutely beautiful. If you get slightly knocked by somebody else, or you get an inkling they don't like you, which is, very much a case of everyday life, everybody can like you, then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you then allows you to be more detached from people. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but I can feel a feeling of somebody that gives once they're allowed, once they're into the group. But because you're not sure whether you're allowed into the group, even though you put 100% into other people, it's like somebody has to open that gate for allow you to be yourself when it's nobody else's choice. Even if somebody has a snip at you or a go at you or finds you absolutely, wait for this, because this may hurt, absolutely repulsive. We're going to say it again. Somebody finds you absolutely repulsive. And there's always somebody that we will meet in life who finds us revolting. And that's okay. You've got to realise where they're coming from, what their family is, and how they grew up, and what they find attractive in themselves. It may be the complete opposite from your upbringing, the people that you've lived with, the jokes that you find funny. Inside, outside, it doesn't really matter, but there's always got to be that somebody. So when you have that situation, don't pull yourself back further. Just accept it and let it flow, because there's things about you, there's more people around you that get more from you than you rub people up. And that is not your job to care for anybody else anyway. Okay, so, oh lordy, that was... Actually, qualities and traits about yourself that you underappreciate. I'm going to change it to start summing it up. The things that you underappreciate about yourself are your ability to give, your ability to understand, to perceive, to be able to organise life into certain categories, to be able to identify with them, to be able to retreat back and try and observe, and I can't think of the words, but you're somebody who's probably quite philosophical, quite articulate, quite all together with regards to being able to understand, identify, label, and then twist around in certain places to be able to organise your thought processes. So there's something very intellectual, there's something very kind, very persistent, very patient, very giving. But I think in doing that, you can overemphasize attachments. You can put other people outside yourself. You see somebody who comes into your life who has different categories or different group, or a group feeling about them, and you find that attractive. You can say, well, that's not me, that's what I want. And so you put them onto a pedestal. So that is something that you need to realise they are part of you. We've all experienced all these different qualities. And if you find somebody that comes through with a different quality, then you put them onto that pedestal. It's just part of you. You haven't developed as much yet. Not that you've not got inside you. I feel that you've spent so much of your life, I don't know how old you are, but so much of your life giving to others, making other people feel smooth and satisfied, which is beautiful. But they will get to a certain point in your life where you feel that you've played that game enough, and you may need to shift on to just being you and allowing others to just rumble along in their own way as well. To not change, but not to identify with being that person that makes other people feel good or feel loved or feel kind, or to make your family feel as if everything's smoothed over. There could be like a Libra moon feeling in this, or Libra, and I don't know what could be on your IC as well. You're very clever. to the fact that you could be too clever for your own good with regards to observing life. I just think you're tired. There's a feeling here that I know this isn't actually turning into what the title should be, and I will try. And I think that you're tired of playing a role in this pile here. And there's absolutely nothing at all, I'm not being kind, nothing at all with the role that you've been playing. I just feel there's a shift inside you. And the things that people may not appreciate about you is that you've done this automatically, that you do this anyway because of how far you've got, who you are, how you vibrate, that you give and you care and you get stuck in, and you don't like people who put themselves above others, but then you put yourself below others at times, especially in relationships, that you think somebody has something that you don't have or you can't have, and that is wrong. That is just a case of you identifying too much with a different category or a certain category. There's a feeling here that you get a lot of insight through sex, through strong commitments, but I feel that one of your greatest aspects is that you're broad-minded with others and need to be more so with yourself to realise that you aren't a particular role. You give that sort of leeway to others but not yourself. There's a feeling of, oh, this is so difficult to sum up. It's absolutely beautiful, and I feel that by trying to understand that, I've picked out negatives, which I have, but to understand, I hope it doesn't feel like that, because you feel like somebody who puts other people first. And you don't want to get to a stage, and I don't know what age you are, where that becomes a resentment. And there's an inner feeling here that you're fed up. Not in a big way. There's nothing drastic about this pile, even though it may sound very like it as I'm saying it. But there's something here that feels like there's something rumbling inside you where you finished. You finished playing a role, not because there's anything wrong with that role. If you think of it in terms of astrology, you could have a progressed sun into something else. You could have been, very sort of, especially with this in the fourth house, you could have played the part of trying to smooth things over at home, trying to be the jovial one or the funny one or the one that lightens the situation. That is something here, lightens the situation. And you've got to appreciate that to have that inside yourself is something that you don't want to lose, but you don't need to be that for anybody. You are that, but not for anybody. So when you get to situations where people, you put the effort in, you're basically you're humming along to what I would feel a very sort of jovial, sweet disposition. And then you get people in life, let's just take the lovers one here, where somebody comes into your life that is more passionate or more committed or more adamant or wilder, and maybe a little bit more bullish than you, or more determined or more selfish than you. Don't always think, just because you want to understand them, that they're better than you. They need to learn lessons from you too. So, to sum this up, I feel that the things that you underappreciate about yourself are that you're on a journey of insight. You've done that, you've categorised, you've watched, you've played a good part, but you're changing. And I think in that change is to not judge yourselves or others. Is to allow flow in yourself, because that's not flowing, and that's your self-worth, and others, without labelling. Because with this card here, you seem to know, this being your 9th house, and this isn't to me a feeling of how broad-minded are you, incredibly broad-minded. That is a fantastic trait, but you may have spent lifetimes of being broad-minded to be able to experience, because if you're closed-minded, you don't take in much at all, and you don't care, and you don't want to change, and you just, this is me, this is it. And you find people like that, lots of people like that, and they're not bad people. We're all a balance, aren't we? But there's just a feeling in here of appreciate who you are in your uniqueness, and that you're on a journey, and the journey beforehand, absolutely perfect. But with this Ten of Swords here, for what I would say is like your 12th house feeling of secrets, there's a feeling here that change is coming. And you're supposed to be changing into something else, and to appreciate yourself as part of the group is incredibly important here. Pile number 1, I'm going to stop there. I don't feel I've done a good job of saying what your best traits are, but to me there's a whole story in that feels incredibly interesting with regards to appreciating your journey. Doing an incredibly good job with what I would say is understanding why we're here. Almost an otherworldly view of others and yourself, but not the part that you try and understand so much, you try and categorize so much that you put yourself... Sorry, I've been talking so long it clicked off. That you put yourself into a position where you're out of life. You're over here and everybody else is over here. It's like, carry on. You can still try and understand, but don't put yourself separate here, because that may be actually nipping at your self-worth. You don't feel as if you're part of the group. Oh my gosh, okay. I'm going to finish there. If I had to choose 10 words to say what you underappreciate, I'm still here. What you underappreciate about yourself would be kindness, sweetness, your ability to care for people, your ability to lift people up, your ability to see the fun side of life, your ability to understand your very passionate connections in a way that allows you to have a bigger perspective of life, your ability to join in with regards to work and not see yourself above people or above a particular job or situation or scenario. Your insight is probably your best point. There's something here that makes me think that you do something that your observations are part of your job or your life, whether it's working, HR or some sort of social situation where you've got to understand people's woes and goods and bads and keep pulling them upwards. But you work very well as part of a team. I think lots of people love you. You're the type of person that people want you in their group. But there's an inner, I'm going to say warning here to make it more drastic, of don't identify with a particular role. Because I think that you're changing, and I think that you are possibly moving into what I would say more of a boss energy of, it doesn't have to be a boss, but more of a boss energy of understanding yourself and not putting yourself in wanting to observe. You don't put yourself into a situation of being the observer and not stuck in life. Hey, I'm going. Pile number 1, I am going. I hope that helps. I can imagine that it was confusing, but I'm going to leave it in because it's a strong feeling. Okay, thanks very much, pile number 1. Bye. Pile number 2. I've just finished pile number 1, funny enough, and to get to your best qualities and traits about yourself, I tend to dig through the cards a little bit that you may not seem as if it's positive at first, but I'm sure it gets there. Just bear with me because I need to dig first. Right, let's have a look. Okay, there is a strong feeling here that how you come across to people at the moment is you're going through a period of what I would feel like almost people feel alienated from you. As if you're changing. You've got the expansion card for your first card, and you've got the I don't know how to say this, the dream catcher, isn't it? For your, it's not, it doesn't say that. It says something that looks like Native American. A word. No. I think you're going through some sort of experience at the moment that may make others feel slightly detached from you because you're changing so much. You're changing your perspective on who you are and life in general in a way that is internal, that is, it may ricochet externally, but there's a feeling here that it feels like spiritual experiences. So it wouldn't surprise me if a few of you out there have had a few unusual spiritual experiences recently in the next year that have changed your perspective, and other people are starting to pick it up. I watched yesterday. I always say I normally watch a little video a day off YouTube. And there was this near-death experience, and I watched quite a few of these anyway, and most of them okay, but by the time I've switched it off, I've forgotten about it. But this one was a lady who was fascinating. The way that she spoke, the things that she said, the way that she put it together, the way that what happened when she was in a coma related to what happened after she was a coma was just really pulled me in for some reason. It wouldn't surprise me, I know that's quite a big example, whether there's changes going on in your perception of life in general, and it's people are picking up that you're changing internally, and they may not be at ease with that. You may be more laid back than usual. I can give an example of this. Let's just say you're in a work situation, and in work situations, oh my gosh, some people who get very uptight find some particular things incredibly important. I'm going to give you an example here. I'm a teacher, and there's a lovely, really lovely lady, not just lovely, but really lovely lady who I work with. She is outgoing, she is kind, she is funny, but she gets very upset about small things at times, in my mind, which may be wrong as well. And we had new register at the beginning of the year, and her register was not new, it was an old one, and she'd been working there a long time, and she was so upset that she just couldn't stop talking about it with tears in her eyes, because it obviously reflected her self-worth back to her, and she felt that she wasn't worthy. And as I was saying in plan number 1, everybody's got their own hiccups, their own sort of, if you talk to her about her parents, you can't judge people, because if I talk to her about her parents, it will be straight that, her mum basically, she loved her dad dearly, and they'd spent a lot of time together. She's got Neptune conjunct a moon, spent a lot of time together on the sea. Mum, not so kind. So obviously this register, which was tatty and old and last year, is not a new one, reflected that, the way that she felt her mum saw her, I would guess here. So anyway, what I was saying here is that you may be going through changes where most of the time in that situation you probably would have said, oh, I don't mind, have mine, that type of thing, and but now you don't care. Now it's a case of quiet, sort that one out yourself, lady. You're lovely, but sort that one out yourself. It's a register at the end of the day. Is it your job to make this lady feel... Just to let you know, I did offer mine. Just before I say this, I did say you can take mine because I don't care. But you may be, with the expansion card here and the way that you communicate being the dream catcher, it's like you don't really, you're not that bothered. You're not that bothered anymore. You're growing inside yourself. You don't feel that you need to appear in a certain guise, or I'm going to leave that there. So I think that's enough on that one. You are changing. What's that old AC/DC song about change? My brother used to play AC/DC all the time. And it's been, there is a really good version at the moment, which is like a soul sort of version. Change is coming, something like that. Something like that. You're changing. So the qualities about yourself that you are not appreciating, I don't know as yet. There's a feeling here of mutability. There's a feeling here of growth, of being able to adjust yourself to situations, to but this isn't just normal life situations. This is not your register in the classroom. This has got a feeling of there's something going on inside you that is gently moving. So I can't say, as I said, I can't start summing up until the end. Right, let's have a look at these. Okay, you may at this moment be going through an identity crisis in a really good way, and that may have something to do with relationships. You may not be able to get into a relationship, have somebody, I'm going to say shun you to make that more drastic, but who has not accepted you, and you're almost like put back into what I feel like a bowl of water where your whole self-concept is swimming around. You're trying to see who you are, because this person has maybe not let you into the group that you wanted to be in. And it doesn't have to be a group. It's just what you've identified is where you're going next, where you like to belong. This person feels like maybe a certain person doesn't have to be a love relationship. It could be a boss. It could be a partnership. And there's a bit of toing and froing going on. There's a bit of what I would say, both of you trying to find your feet, and you almost like not really caring whether you got your feet stuck in anyway, because there's such change going inside you that you are allowed to. It's like, this is what image I've got in my head. It's like swimming through water with like plankton. I watched too much SpongeBob going into your mouth. And in that plankton is like a story of who you were, and you digest it, ingest it, and it's out the other end. And you're going through that process of skimming the water, taking in who you are and what experience you've had. And this relationship may be what's thrown you into the water. And that's where the dream catcher comes in. It's like ideas coming towards you in dreams, and then you wait, it's just like it's cathartic in some way. I know this isn't answering the question, but the pile number one was exactly the same. And I know I'm going to get comments which will be like, what was that? But I don't know. I can't do it any other way. You are going through okay. What you underappreciate about yourself is your knowing, your understanding, your knowledge, who you are, why you've been brought into this world, and you are going through what feels like I can't think of any other words that make sense, and these don't make sense. Epiphanic mutation. No, I know that doesn't make sense, but you are changing. This is a huge pile of change. Jupiter in Libra. You are swishing around with who you are. Relationships could have been difficult. What you underappreciate about yourself is the fact that you may possibly have been put in this position in your life for a reason that is bigger than yourself, that you haven't quite identified yet. And you're going through what I feel like spiritual experiences to know what part you play. You're meant to be. What you underappreciate about yourself is your possible, can't say definite, reason that you're here is for others, to relate to people, to be able to understand people's woes and understand what's going on inside. It's a chironic field here of being able to use your understanding of life in general to make others feel better who can't. I'm going to say this in a really sort of biblical way. I don't even know I meant biblical because it won't be biblical, but see the light. And I know that doesn't sound like the kind of thing I say, but to me, it's like, it's one of those terms that you find in one of the books that are handed down. But suppose what I'm saying by that, and the magician has got light coming out of the eyes, that his eyes, that how many people have you met that find inconsequential things important? And we were talking about that register earlier. And I don't think that you do. I think that you think big. Yeah. You may have a lot of Sagittarius in you. You've got Jupiter here, you've got the Eight of Wands with regards to your ninth house and how broad-minded you are. And that to me is that you're a bit like pan number 1, very perceptive, very broad-minded. In fact, you may actually, with a dream calendar catcher there, talk to others about your beliefs. Broad perspective on life in general. But relationships, I think, have been difficult for you. And in those difficult moments, it's very possible that that is where your greatest insight has come from. And your ability, I wonder whether when you get to the end of your life, whether you will look back and the people that you've been able to love, like close contacts, you've made changes to them. You've made changes with regards to not sweating the small stuff, them not sweating the small stuff, because you don't hang on to the things that used to upset you when you were young. There's a lot of growth in this pile. Okay, right, so what I would say here, the traits that you underappreciate about yourself is that your ability to change is huge. From changing from who you thought you were when you were younger to how you see life, to your perspective on life in general is oh my gosh, I don't know how to say this. It's like you're put on this earth for a particular purpose with the Magician card here. And the 4th house is like a child that already knew what they were here for, but didn't really quite understand it because you're a child, but you felt different from other people. You felt as if you had an understanding, insight. When you saw adults playing up, you were like, why are you doing that? That's not important. It feels that you have been through many situations that have been difficult, and maybe difficult childhood, difficult relationships, most definitely difficult relationships that have allowed you to realise what you want to get involved with and what you don't want to get involved with. It feels like you're very magnetic. It feels that people are drawn towards you because you know, because you understand, and because you've got what I would say a very sort of, you're a little bit like Fonzie. There's a coolness about you that isn't shaken by outside situations. It's your inner knowing, your inner self-regulating that is probably the most attractive thing about you. But I think that you've got there through trials and tribulations, especially with these cards here, through partnerships. It doesn't have to be love relationships. It could have been a best buddy. It could have been a work situation that's given you more insight. And that, I think, has given you the strength to be able to deal with the shitty small stuff in life. This is magnificent. It feels like people are drawn towards you in times of trouble. People connect with you. You're probably wise, quiet, and it feels like all-knowing. I know nobody's all-knowing. We can't be all-knowing, can we? You could have had somebody in the past that has actually given you a leg up through being deceitful to you, or in a situation with you, whether it's a boss, whether you were sacked unfairly with this card here, or whether somebody cheated on you, and in that process with these 2 cards here, you realise who you didn't want to be. And there's a huge, understatement again isn't the word, but with regards to people being awful to us, I was going to swear then and I stopped myself, so I'm very proud of myself, in our lives is a gift in some ways, because especially with parents, this isn't coming up as parents, this is coming up in relationships, because it is a gift because we know who we don't want to be. And your job is to have insight and strength and strong will and compassion all at the same time. And you have got there through growth, through difficult circumstances, I think. And people don't really appreciate possibly how far you've come to be able to come across as in control of yourself as you are now. They don't have to appreciate that. It's all to do with you. It's nothing to do with them. But you may come out with some crackingly wise things with this card here. That so you could be a counsellor in some way. It's like you're very perceptive, you're insightful, but you're broad-minded. So you could actually provide people with information that has come a long way for you to get there, but you give it out very quickly, it's very succinct, and people are like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's what I needed. And that may be, you knew it when you were young. Is there a moment, just a thought here with the Magician card here, I think our battery's going to go because I'm talking so much today. Is there a moment in your childhood when you were very young, as in like below the age of 7, where you stopped and you thought that you were somebody else, or you were here for a reason, or you felt different? Not different as in, look at me, I've detached myself from everybody else and I'm great, but just in a way that you thought life was a little bit more than what was in front of you, you know, which was your jammy dodger and your orange juice. It's like you stopped and you were a little bit above your years, because that to me is what that card is. And if that is so, this is very much your pile. You change people's perspectives on life, you change people's minds, and you don't have to be a counsellor, but it could be a position where you help people, you guide people, or you do that naturally when you come in contact with people. But there's things that you say and the way that you think that through going through your tough times, it helps other people get a little bit further in their life. So you could be in I don't even think it's like a helping profession, like a watery profession, like, you know, teaching young kids, but it is more in a way of guidance. I don't know whether you do it naturally or you get paid for it. Your secret is okay, I don't think you come across as being, you know, when some people when you talk to watery people, they look like they're going to cry in their eyes all the time. Have you ever noticed that? There's a guy who does surgery. Oh, nice. And he looks like, what's that guy who sang Blue Hotel, or was it Blue Hotel? And Wicked Game. Is that a look in the eye where the eyes are very pale oftentimes, or they just look as if they've got water in them? I don't think you're one of those people that have what I say is like seeping empathy coming out of them. I think that you are cool and collected and get on with things, not particularly over emotional. And I think that people may actually perceive you as being kindly pulled back, but through difficult circumstances to do with partnerships, perhaps to do with love, to do with maybe even play deprivation here. So your parents may not have, they may have been busy. And play deprivation is a real problem. You know, people, I'm not saying this is you, but people who are deprived of play in a drastic sense, as in I know people who have been left in kids in houses for, you know, without being fed for weeks and weeks and weeks. And there's always this like, well, it can be drastic with regards to how as adults they play out their life. Very drastic. Let's just touch on this a little bit. Like, your parents were busy, kind, loving, but busy, and you felt that you've not really developed the play in life. So when people, sorry, I've got to go in more into this. you may be one of those people that don't really like people mucking about with you. You don't appreciate silliness in love relationships. You may enjoy it in everyday life, but when it comes to love relationships, you want somebody who is straightforward and strong. Because any hint of silliness or waveriness or mutability in a love relationship makes you think that they're not committed. So, okay. I am here. I'm just thinking. I'm going to shut my eyes and go through, because this is difficult to go through what I'm trying to pick out with personality, then flip it to why people, what the qualities and traits about yourselves that you don't see. So I don't think that you see how far you've come. I don't think that you see that you are going through a magnificent process of being who you were meant to be, that you felt like you were when you were young. There's an insight, there's a knowing, there's an ability to give people advice that is concrete and grounded and worthwhile, rather than like gushing or sentimental or too much emotion in it. You allow people to see a way forward that they can actually work on, like a 3-step plan type of thing. So that's one of the feeling here, is that you possibly, whether it's like you're talking to a younger sibling and you're saying who's in a difficult patch or changing themselves or going through a process where they're going from one sort of era to the next. I know era is a big word there. And you say, these are 3 things you need to do, 1, 2, 3. And they're like, and they hold on to that for the rest of their lives. Because you've got the Ace of Swords twice here next to the Queen of Cups. And I said earlier that I don't think that you come across as the Queen of Cups or the King of Cups. You come across as straightforward, but there's a process that you are going through that you are, to me it feels like, and I've said this in other readings, when people do your fixed stars and they give you too much that you feel like, there's no way I am Cleopatra. It's that type of, they give you a personality which you feel that you're not going to live up to. This to me is one of those piles that I feel that if I put this into what you underappreciate, you're going to feel like there's too much pressure. But I feel that you underappreciate that you're meant to be here doing something bigger than you probably think that you are doing at the moment. There's a strength inside you. There's an ability to speak the truth inside you. There's a change going on at the moment that is slow moving but very significant. There's a feeling here that you've been through relationships that have allowed you to be stronger through pain. And I know that sounds silly, but that is it, giving you more insight, and that is helping you with your job and your life situation. In fact, I'm thinking, and I've just come into my mind of one particular person who fits this to a T. And I don't want to go, because it's personal, into too much information here. But I will just say that with regards to relationships here, that the person that this other person was in love with, they died. They committed suicide. And that has given this person, I think, a different perspective. This person was meant to help others, and I can remember doing a reading for him and thinking this, and this has given him, I think, it's part and parcel of a different perspective of who he is, maybe strength in caring. So I'm going to leave that there. You underappreciate your journey, and people underappreciate. I don't think people underappreciate you at all. I think people see you on a journey and they see your strength. And I think that you've spent a hard time getting there. You're meant to be doing something. Once again, this is the second pile where you're meant to be helping others and you've been through a process to get there. So I don't think people underappreciate you. So I can't actually answer the question that I gave myself. But I do think that you are something else. And I think you knew that as a child, and it wouldn't surprise me whether you've had many sort of what people could term as psychic experiences. And it's almost like wake-up calls. It's like somebody banging you on the head to say, You're more, give more, be more, because you were always meant to be more. And that may be what you underappreciate. That you've had certain situations in your life to allow you to be able to see your road. And if you don't think that, it may be interesting to look back and think of where you may have questioned and forgotten, and to keep a journal without doubt. Okay, pile number 2, I'm going to leave that there. I hope that gets some way to answering a question, or if you can wriggle into that your story, because that's a big pile of being made aware continually throughout your life and having a particular, what I would say, strong job to do that you're just beginning to understand, maybe through difficulties. Okay, pile number 2, I'm going to leave you there. Thank you, bye-bye. Okay, pile number 2, the qualities and traits about yourself that other people underappreciate. Each pile so far has been difficult to answer the question, to be honest, because it feels like you've got to unravel the cards. It feels like you go through a journey, and then you have to shift it to how other people underappreciate you. And to be honest, pile number 2, I don't think anybody underappreciated them. I just feel that they were just on a journey and they were wavering and coming out into what feels like a magnificent open field, and perhaps people are going to see them different. But you're coming across as somebody who is strong inwardly, loves big, mutable, flexible, kind, generous, but people can't quite hold you. People quite can't grasp you, and people want to grasp you. It's got this feeling of being like ethereal. Yeah, ethereal, full stop. It's like a Neptune and Venus contact here going on, with the Venus in Libra as well. Somebody who may be very good looking, somebody who likes lots of different people in their life, likes to go into different groups and to communicate and come out again to a different group. It's not like somebody, and I don't know definite yet because I've got to get these cards out. It's like somebody who's just, you don't have to be good looking, but there's a feeling here that you are incredibly good looking. Whatever that means, there is a meaning to that, isn't there? Because we are basically, there are certain things that we just think are, but we all got different tastes. There's a feeling here that people want more of you, and they can't get it. If I feel that people project onto you, I feel that people, sometimes you may have people that have huge crushes on you, or people that you may have even had trouble with stalkers. It's just a strange feeling here, or people that become obsessed with you and you have no idea where it's come from. And even if you aren't what people would term as typically good looking, and I'm trying to relate this to a feeling here, and I know people like this. I have got a friend like this, and she works in a shop. She's nice looking. Very high cheekbones, very gentle, very kind, and people go into a shop, and because she's, listens to them and she's receptive, that she allows that space for people to put their feelings on top of her. So she gets people coming into the shop and not going, or people that have huge crushes on over the years, and it's difficult for her. That is a feeling I'm getting from you here. But underneath, there's something roaring inside you. And this has a feeling, and this will just be a feeling, and I will get to answer the question probably more towards the end, of somebody who could be quite well known, and somebody who's famous in some way, who is living a life on the surface that doesn't have to be famous, but it's that feeling of somebody that lives a life on the surface that looks beautiful, but inside there's that you can't be yourself at times. Let me just keep going. You've got what I would say is a very strong love nature. You enjoy being in love. You enjoy falling in love. There's a feeling here that you may have got yourself into sticky situations in that part of your life. I don't know how to explain this. As I start explaining it, don't take this isn't personal. This is me trying to organise it in my head. There's a feeling here of kind people that love easily, and sometimes that can get them into situations, and I'm thinking like Pisces feeling, Libra feeling, where they've got themselves into situations that they've given too much in love relationships or sexual relationships, too easygoing, too sweet, and been taken advantage of. Just a thought here, because here is a feeling of, in some way, that you may have almost cut yourself out of long-term relationships through being possibly hurt, but not because you're too sweet. You're kind, you're giving, you're loving, and let's just say the world is tough, and you've got that disposition. There will be times in life where it burns. And I'm thinking of here as I'm saying this, and please don't take this personally. I'm honestly trying to just sort things out in my head of a feeling. And the thought that I've got here, I'm looking at these cards, is Edie Sedgwick, where she was like, lots of people adored her, and she was very, people were very much drawn towards her, and she was nice looking. But I don't know if this is correct, but she got herself into a situation where you get what I would say a lot of not the leeches, I can't think of the word. What are those fishes that bite people? Fish that just bite people and hold on to them. People that stick on to people. That's the image I've got in my mind. They're not piranhas. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It wasn't the right word to come out of my mouth. But the people that just latch on to you. Yeah. And she had that, I think, and in the end, I felt got slightly in a situation where a softness was taken advantage of, but I don't know, it's off with films and books and things. So, what do people underappreciate about you? I don't think people appreciate that you show them an alternative to grasping and grabbing and holding. And I think that's done you a misjustice with regards to how you want to commit in long-term relationships now, because I think you've been bruised. So let's take this away from what I've been saying with regards to other people to get an image in my head. To me, it just feels that you're kind and easygoing, and we all live in a world where there's still a lot of people who would rather take than give. And you may have experienced that. So people underappreciate the fact that you need strength to have this pile, to be honest, that you are where you should be with regards to where your heart sits. You've got a good heart and you're kind, you don't like to be tied down, and other people want to hold on to you, is what I've got so far. I'm not going to go into that yet, because that may have to do with... It feels like there's a feeling here that life comes at you and you don't know, and people watching even wouldn't know why. Gosh. To me, this whole pile feels Pisces, Libra to me. And I'm getting tough cards, but it feels like it's coming from other people. So it's difficult to answer the question what people don't appreciate about you. So at the moment, I'm thinking, and the only thing I could think, well, please don't identify this with yourself in any way whatsoever, was Edie Sedgwick, where she came across as very sort of like just part of a team and very easygoing, very kind and attractive, and she got what I termed as piranhas after her. You know, basically the system took advantage of her. There's a feeling here that people underappreciate your softness, and in doing that they give you your kindness, they give that they're a misjustice to themselves. Because how on earth can you, in a world, how can we without examples like this know where to go? But if that world, those people or those personalities are underdeveloped, they're still going to think, take advantage, take advantage. I'm going to change my battery, hold on. Oh my gosh, you are so sweet. You're kind, you're giving, you're loving, you allow the world to feel soft, you think ahead and you think of others, you must have, if there is such a thing as lifetimes before, you have loved and loved and loved and loved. And you are just beginning to allow others to see what they should be doing. You could be, to me this has got a very, it's almost like an artistic feel. Maybe that's where I was getting that Edie Sedgwick feeling from it. And an artist to me could be in anything that you do. You know, it could be like bricklaying, but you do it with a sense of flexibility and openness. I don't know how to put it into bricklaying, but it could be creating anything, and this is life in general, and softness and sweetness. And if you were bricklaying, I make this difficult for myself, you would be laughing with your mates, you would be stopping for breaks and enjoying the scenery, and then making something a little bit different and a little bit allowing beauty to come into other people's lives. And people underappreciate the time that they spend with you is precious because it makes an impression on them, and it makes life feel good. And in dark times, I'm not saying we're in dark times, it's a bit difficult at times, but people like you are precious and much needed. I don't think you do it in a shouty way. It's not a preachy way. It's a case of sweet, kind, kiss, hug, life's good, remember me, and they do. I would trust you with my £8.50 in my bank. That type of feeling. It's like you wouldn't hurt anybody. There are a couple of cards here I'll need to put more on, but let's just keep going with this at the moment. I just feel that there's a feeling here, this isn't going to answer the question, but there's a feeling here that you have experienced unfairness. A big time in this pile in your life. And has that ability to change you into something that ricochets onto the complete opposite end of who you are. It's like you question yourself and how much you've given to people and how kind you've been. Maybe it's been taken advantage of here. And what you probably think by trying to protect yourself is to be the complete opposite, to be tough and to be hard and to be grisly and that type of feeling. But this has got a feeling in this that to be honest, when you get people that come across like you, to be that person that probably is signified. Oh, what I'm trying to say is you don't need to go to the other two extremes here, but you need to be incredibly stubborn. Incredibly stubborn to be able to succeed with this softness, because people underappreciate the fact that just by you being in their lives gives them an alternative to fighting and struggling and attacking and demeaning and grasping, because you just you, and you come from either a family that loves big, or experiences in past lifetimes, if you believe in that, where you have learnt to love big. But you come into a world now and you think that you're fighting. Let's just say, just imagine that you know, somebody like this. And I always think this. Do you remember Jesus Christ Superstar, when he's standing at the end, is it Pontius Pilate? I don't remember. And he's been basically whipped, you know, to tell me that you're the king. And I know what's going on behind that story there, but this is what it feels like. You know, tell me why you think you're the king, and it's threatening to them. People find you threatening, I think, because of your inability to be like them. But they won't know an alternative unless they spend time with you anyway. So you're doing them a great justice by just being yourself. And there's a feeling here that, you know, you've got this card over here and this one at the Page of Pentacles here of how broad-minded are you? And there's just a feeling here of it feels like you're a bud and you're just beginning to blossom with regards to how you identify yourself. All the way that you've acted up until now has been very generous spirit, but you're just beginning to learn how your strong boundaries to say, well, stop there, I've had enough now, because of these cards here. It's like, I've had enough. You know, there's a feeling when you've had to protect yourself a little bit too much from people that don't know how to act. And it's just beginning. And in that, it to me feels like the balance through difficult situations will be, and this is gorgeous pile, but needing to protect yourself. It's like going into a different planet, but not being able to breathe the air. So you get out your spaceship or whatever you're in, and you're perfect as you are. You know, everything inside yourself is ready to be able to, you're there to be able to survive on this planet, but you can't quite catch your breath all the time. And you have to adjust slowly. And then that's when you blossom. So I don't think people appreciate that, your journey, again, a bit like pile number 2. But that, and I think that you may have found it difficult to begin with, and that you're gaining your strength, and in that strength you're going to really blossom like no other flower. And that is not through being cruel or through being rough or through being harsh, which you may have questioned at times in your life, especially if you've got that Venus Pisces feel of being softer. It will be through being stubborn and knowing who you are that you make the best progress. Knowing what's right and not letting other people push themselves upon you with more aggressive personalities, more assertive personalities, colder, cooler, because you're getting there and you're wise. So this is a bit that's difficult, actually. I give myself a question. It's really difficult to find out what I feel I can get from the cards and then to sum it up at the end. So the traits that people underappreciate about you are that you own the traits that they should have, that they are too blind to see. And in the process of you becoming more of yourself, it's by identifying or understanding where you're coming from that they know who they should be. So they underappreciate that you may be a reflection or a lesson to them. But you've got to look after yourself big time in this pile. You've got to be able to be stubborn with people who are tougher, harder, more outspoken than you, because you're doing a fantastic job of unfolding. And in that unfolding, people get a taste of where they should be. Okay, I'm going to leave that there, pile number 3. I know that doesn't answer your question, but hope that you can guess what impact you have on people and where you should be. And yeah, your greatest points are your kindness and your ability to be where's it going through my head? Altruistic is one, whatever that is. Another one is kindness, altruistic. I don't know. It's basically you've chose the right path, and people may not understand it, but you've got to keep going because you're like a lesson to other people in some way, and a lesson that is quite you're soft and gentle, I think. Okay, pile number 3. I'm going to leave that there. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you can get something out of that, and have a great week. Bye.